admit. All right, hello everyone. Just waiting for a few more people to log in here. Okay, I think everybody's in. Hello, my name is Katie McCarthy. I'm the head of adult audiences here at Hillwood. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm delighted that we can gather virtually to enjoy this orchid floral design workshop together. I'm joined by Ami Wilber, who is Hillwood's floral and event decor designer. Ami joined Hillwood in 2016 and has extensive experience as a floral designer. We'll turn things over to Ami in a moment, but first I wanted to share a few quick notes before we get started. Hillwood is beautiful in any time of the year, but this time is a great time of year to explore our new exhibition, which is called Determined Women, Collectors, Artists, and Designers at Hillwood. It's open now through mid-June, so we hope that those of you here in the DC area will come and visit. And just a few quick notes about today's class. Ami will be walking everyone through making an arrangement step by step. You'll see in your Zoom box that there is a chat function, so be sure to put any questions that you have in the chat box, and I'll read the questions for you throughout the demonstration. And then at the end of our demo, we'll invite everyone to share their flower arrangements, so you can turn on your camera, you can unmute yourself and share what you've done. And if you have any questions at the end, also feel free to ask as well. You also don't have to turn on your camera. You can do whatever feels best for you. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Ami. Thank you all so much.
Great, thank you, Katie, and welcome everyone, and happy St. Patrick's Day for all of you who celebrate St. Patrick's Day. The holiday gave me a little bit of pause to do a color theme that would sort of match the holiday. But again, it's March here at Hillwood, which means it's Orchid Month. We have a lot of amazing orchid programs that are going on throughout this month. And I wanted to sort of join in with the theme of orchids, and that's why we are doing an arrangement that has 3 different kinds of orchids today. They are all orchids that we have in our greenhouse and that we have blooming, I think, right now as well. So I'm going to just sort of go through the materials that we have for you today. For those of you who are not able to pick up materials, I can always answer questions as to things that would, either work as a substitute or things that are in the same sort of color palette that could work for your arrangement as well. So before we get started, just to let you know, I will be stopping throughout each sort of segment of the process of doing the arrangement. And of course, at that time, if you have questions, feel free to, write them in and Katie will answer them for you. And of course, if something comes up like afterwards or whatever, feel free to ask also in there, and we'll definitely get all of that started for you. Okay, so one thing that I thought was going to be kind of fun for the arrangement today is that I have a birch covered container. So this is actually a 2-part container. So this is just sort of the birch wrapped around something else, and there's a little form that's holding it, but it's actually this glass jar that fits into it that you're going to have your water and everything in there. So I'm just going to put this to the side for now, and we'll come back to that at another point. But I thought it was fun just sort of playing off of the idea that a lot of times orchids actually grow on the underneath sides of trees. So I thought it was fun to have sort of a tree as a container. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm starting with my chicken wire. We only use chicken wire here at Hillwood. We don't use any floral foam. We stopped using floral foam pretty early on when I first started. It's horrible for the environment. And I also think that using chicken wire helps to keep your flowers and blooms fresher longer because the stem is directly sitting in water. And again, this is a galvanized chicken wire, so it's something that can be reuse several times over and over. It rarely needs to get thrown away, except if it starts to rust after maybe, I don't know, like half a year later, something like that. And at that point, you can then just put it into your metal recycling. So all in all, chicken wire is a much better and more friendly and more sustainable way to do your arrangements. So again, I'm just going to take this, I'm going to kind of ball it up. I like to have a top and a bottom of my chicken wire so that my stems are hitting at 2 points instead of just one. After I ball this up, I'm going to put it into my container. I kind of shove that in there. And then just for good measure, I'm going to take some floral tape. I have clear floral tape, but any kind of floral tape that you have is fine. And then I'm just going to tape across the top of my container so that the chicken wire doesn't pop out unexpectedly. And again, then I'm just going to run my tape around the edge of my container to make sure that it stays in place. And then, as you can see, it's just a crisscross of my floral tape and then wrapped around. So after I have my chicken wire and it's taped down and everything is in place, I'm going to do the most important thing and put water into my container. You want to check on your container probably every day, especially tomorrow, because when you first put into the water your stems, they tend to drink a lot. So you want to make sure that obviously the stems are all in water and then it's nice and full. You can also, change out your water if you want to, and we can kind of get into that a little bit later on. But again, I'm just using plain tap water. We don't use anything in our water just because of arrangements that are going into the mansion, that we want to make sure that there's nothing in there that might harm anything in the mansion. But if you have those little packets of, Floral Life or whatever it is that you get with your flowers, definitely feel free to put that into your water. All right, so again, we are all set. I've got my water, everything's taped down. I'm now going to put it back into this little birch container here. Plop that right down in there, and we are ready to get started. The first thing that I always like to do is think about where this arrangement is going to go. If it's going to be a one-sided arrangement or an all-sided arrangement. From there, I will then decide how it is I'm going to go about in green. But I do like to green everything first, just because that gives a nice sort of base and support, and also a visual cue as to how tall and how wide my arrangement's going to be. Typically, you want to think about 1.5 times the height and width of your container. So something that is, this size, you want to think again, 1.5 times that. It doesn't always have to be that way. That's just sort of the rule of thumb. Of course, a lot of things don't end up being that way, which is fine as well. But if you do have like a really short sort of thin container, you don't want something that's going to be super tall on it, because it won't have the stability that it needs. All right, so before we get started, I always like to do my little public safety announcement. Make sure that you keep all of your fingers intact for this workshop, and just to make sure that you don't have any digits in the realm of your numbers. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go over the materials that we have today that I have provided for people who are doing pickups and what I'm using for myself. The greens that we have are two different. This is a Ming fern, and then this other green is Pittosporum. A lot of times I like to use two different greens that have two very different textures, just again to give it a little bit more interest, and it helps with the Ming fern's a little bit airy and can take up some space up high, whereas the Pittosporum is nice and dense, and it kind of can cover any of the mechanics that you see down below. The flowers that we have today are all orchids, like I said. These are Oncidium orchids in this yellow color. And then we have Dendrobium orchids that are in white. And see, the last thing that we have is this big gal over here, which is a cymbidium orchid. The other thing that I have that I thought would be kind of fun for the arrangement today is some curly willow branches. All right, so like I said, we're going to start by screening our container first. I'm going to cut everything on a nice sharp sort of 45-degree angle. So I'm going to take my snips. I'm going to make sure that my greens are nice and bare at the stem here. And again, I'm going to cut everything on a really sharp 45-degree angle. That way you have more surface for your stem to take up water. Again, this is going to be an all-sided arrangement today. So I am going to start by coming into the center of my container and then sort of like greening out. Again, this is a relatively narrow container so that it's not going to really require that much greening. But I want to think about how tall and how wide it's going to be. So I'm going to start using my greens as sort of little architectural cues and structures to know where the height and the width is going to come from.
Amy, there's a quick question in here. Robin would like to know what the name of the yellow orchid is.
It's an oncidium orchid. This one, correct? Okay, so as you can see, I'm going to just scooch this back a little bit. I'm taking my pittosporum and I'm kind of creating a bit of a wide area. And I have all of my pittosporum is, I don't know what happened, but it's all like really short. So I'm not cutting it down that much. If I had like a really big piece of pittosporum, I would want to break it down so it wasn't this like one massive piece of greenery going into my container. Because again, this isn't a very large surface area here. So I want to make sure that I'm not overcrowding it with like a whole bunch of greens. Again, everything's getting cut at a nice 45-degree angle and coming in. And like I said, I'm going to make this an all-sided arrangement. So I'm going to now sort of mimic what I did here in the front, in the back, so that it looks the same from the front and the back, so that you don't necessarily see like the back of the greens here. And I'm going to do that by coming in with some of my pittosporum again. And then sort of mimicking what I was doing there so that it isn't, you know, so much like the back of the greens, but it looks sort of the same. And I'm putting everything in at an angle. I'm not sticking things straight up and down. And that's just kind of giving it a little bit of a looser look, which I also like. And then the one thing that's great about the chicken wire is that you can sort of move things around as need be. All right, so I'm going to go in with just a couple more pieces here. I'm going to do one more on the other side. All right, so that's all of the pittosporum greening I'm going to do. I'm kind of making it a little bit of a slight asymmetrical angle here, which is something I like. And I just have one more piece I'm just going to put in so that you don't see as much of this back sort of part. So there. So now you have the greens. I'm going to go in with my Ming fern. And because this is kind of like light and airy, you can actually bring this up and sort of create volume with it. Again, some of the Ming fern came in like these massive pieces. I'm not going to try and take this and, put it in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, move this over here. I'm going to take this and I'm going to break it down. So I'm going to go, it looks like a little tree. So it's like I'm taking the branches, I'm snipping the branches off of this tree. One thing about Ming fern, you just want to be careful. It does have little thorns that will try and stab you. So just be aware of that. And again, because this isn't like a super like wide, big container, I'm going to not want any, big tall pieces, which is why I'm breaking this whole piece of Ming fern down. So now I have all of these smaller pieces that are much more manageable. And again, I'm still going to cut off some of these bottom ones so that I don't have a lot of greenery going into the water. All right, so let me move this back here. Oopsie. Okay, so then again, like I said, I'm going to use this to create some volume out this way. I feel like I have a nice shape going on this way. So now I want to just kind of fill it out a little bit with my Ming fern. And again, I'm doing the front and the back because this is going to be an all-sided arrangement. Another thing that you can start thinking about, and I'll talk about this more when we actually go to put the flowers in, is that I'm using things with the odd number rule so that you can start to triangulate things off of each other. So the sort of like rule of 3 or like the rule of odd numbers is that you can think, I'm going to put one piece of fern here, one piece of fern here, one piece of fern here, and I've made myself a triangle. I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to do it on this side as well. I have one piece here, which means I want to do one more and I'm going to put it down here. Again, creating that sort of triangular form. And this is something that can just help, especially if you're new to floral arranging or you're feeling sort of stuck, like you don't know where you want to put things. It's a good way to kind of help as a guide. Okay, so again, I have this little thingy coming out this way. I'm gonna just actually put one more down here. And then I'm gonna be done greening for now. I have a lot of greens left over, which I'm gonna hold on to, and it'll be good, especially if I find that I have any weird bald spots or I need to fill in a little bit later on. So I'm just gonna put my greens to the side for now. And I have those in case I need to use it later. So before we continue on, does anyone have questions about the greening stage? We're good? Okay. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go in with my curly willow. I'm not going to use all of it straight away. I'm just going to use a couple of pieces so that I know where and how tall this is going to be. Now, curly willow, because it's nice and thin and it's a little bit, doing its own thing, you can have this and not necessarily do that whole rule of 1.5 times. In fact, I'm going to have this curly willow be relatively tall, sticking out from the container. It'll add a little bit of drama, I think. So again, this I'm going to have coming all the way out. You can't see, but you can see like how much, can you see? You can see like how much higher it is than the rest of the container. So I'm just going to keep that like that for now. We'll see if later on I want it to actually be that tall or not. I found this one piece of curly willow, which I thought was really kind of fun. It's this like little hook curly Q thing. So I want to kind of feature that And I might want to bring it down, coming out of the arrangement a little bit. And again, this is all sort of subject to change. We'll see what happens after we go in with the orchids. All right, but for now, I'm just going to do those two things, and then I'm going to go on to my first orchid. I like to think about this in terms of size and how much real estate it's going to take in the arrangement. So the first thing that I'm going to do is use my Cymbidium orchid because she's a big gal and she's going to take up a lot of space. And then I'm going to go in with my dendrobiums. And then the final thing that I'll do are these oncidiums because they are very small and delicate. I don't want like a big stem of anything to then end up breaking any of the flowers. So I'm going to do something that I know sometimes people find to be difficult to do, but I'm going to cut this so I have two pieces. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for sort of the longest sort of gap in the stem, and I'm going to cut there so I have kind of a nice long stem. So if you can see right here, this area is kind of a nice long stem. So I'm going to cut that and I'm going to cut it here. So now I have two orchids. I'm going to take this first one because this is the one that's cut. I want to make sure that it's cut really close and clean so that you don't see the cut. So I'm going to use it this way in the arrangement so that you just see the flower part. And I'm going to put this one in here down a little bit low. A little tricky. All right, actually moving the greenery a bit so I can actually see. All right, so center. She's here. And then I want, because this is going to be an all-sided arrangement, I want the other side to then sort of mimic this side, but have the flowers facing out and that you can see it. So this is the part that people find controversial, but don't worry. I'm going to cut these blooms off of the stem. And then you have these little extra blooms that you can float into water if you'd like, or you could put them in like a little tiny bud vase. But I need them to be cut off so that I have room and a nice clear stem to then put this side into the water. And again, I'm going to the back part of this so that it looks like it's the same when you turn it this way, or when you look at it this way. So I have this area now with my beautiful green Cymbidium orchids. I'm going to actually look and see that this pittosporum is kind of monkeying with some of the orchid petals. So I'm just going to adjust it slightly so that all of the orchids are nice and that they can shine. Okay, so after I have done that, that's sort of like the big kind of like base area. I'm actually going to take this curly willow out right now because I'm not sure where I'm going to put that for now. But I want to put in my other flowers first. Is there a question about what I just did with the Cymbidium orchid? Are we feeling good?
There is one question.
Okay.
Gail would like to know if you're snipping the bottom of the orchid on a 45-degree angle, or are you splitting it?
No, I'm snipping it at a 45-degree angle on the bottom. Okay, so like I said, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with my white dendrobium orchids, and I have 5 stems of these. Just going to pull them out. Okay, now as you can see with this dendrobium orchid, the stem is nice and clear down here. Whereas this one, you can see the stem isn't quite as clear. So again, I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to pull off some of these ones down towards the bottom, and you can save those for later if you would like. So I want this to be kind of a, you know, asymmetrical, anything goes sort of arrangement. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in my first dendrobium orchid off to the side and a little bit to the top here. And then I'm going to take this line and I'm going to bring it down this way with this one here. And you can see it's sort of bending naturally this way as well. So again, I have them, that looks a little bit too much like arms, which I don't quite like. See if we can fix that a little bit. All right, there we go. That's better. Okay, so again, I'm trying to create a line that's coming from here, going down to there. I'm going to take my next one and I'm going to bring it up and out. Like that. So now I have 3. I want to definitely bring one out here. And then the last one is going to come out over here. And sometimes if you look, the dendrobium orchid is going to tell you which way it wants to go. I'm actually going to use this one over here on this side and have it come out. So it's like that. And again, I'm going to take that last one that I have and I'm going to put her here. I'm not actually sure if I like this one here. So I'm going to pull this one out. And I'm going to put it here instead. Go. Again, I'm still going to put this last one over here. All right, so I like what's happening on this side. This back side is looking a little bit not how I want it. So I'm actually going to remove these 2 that were back here. I just removed those. And I'm going to just readjust it slightly so that it's coming out a little bit more at an angle. And that it's also sort of tucking in a little bit closer, like that. And then this one, I think would be interesting coming up from here. No, I don't really like that there. All right, I'm pulling it out. I am going to put it originally where I was going to put it originally, down here. And again, that's the beauty of this chicken wire. If you don't like something, you can easily remove it and then place it back into a new spot. Okay, much better. All right, so now I have my cymbidiums and my dendrobium orchid spin. The next thing I'm going to do is put my oncidiums in. And again, these are very like light and delicate, and you don't want them to get crushed by anything else. So I have 5 stems of this. Okay. So again, I'm going to use these in more of like a filler kind of way. I'm also going to use these with a little bit of height, and I'm going to bring some color up into here. I'm going to take my longest one that I have, and I'm going to bring it up like that. I feel like this spot in through here is kind of naked, so I want to go in with an orchid there. And this I really think is, they're really beautiful. They're so delicate, and they just add that little touch of whimsy that I like when I'm doing my arrangements. I feel like this area in through here is a little bald, so I'm going to go in with my orchid here. And then again, it's a little bit naked down here. So I'm going to put something right in there. And then for my last one, just have a little look-see. Because it is kind of tall, this last one. I do think that I want it to kind of be up here in the back. I don't know if you can tell what I'm doing, but up here in the back to kind of keep that height along the side of a piece of curly willow. So it's right back there. What questions do you have before we start to go in with our curly willow? How are you guys doing? Good, good, good. Okay. Well, then I'm going to go in with my curly willow as sort of my last step here. I'm going to come back to this funky little curly willow one. And now I'm going to put that in here. And again, this is going to come out slightly and give it a little bit of dimension. So now you can see it's giving it a little bit of something fun. If you don't have a piece of curly willow that is doing that fun curving shape, you can just take a regular piece of curly willow and you can just gently manipulate it. And then you can make your own little piece. And you can either take the end of it and just sort of wrap it around itself, or you could take a piece of wire or something to actually hold it in place. Oops, I'm gonna smack myself in the face. I'm gonna take a little piece of wire and I'm just gonna wrap it around down here at the bottom to give me another little loopy. Okay, so again, I just have a little piece of floral wire, just wrapping this around the end. But you could use anything. You could use string, you could use, you know, a rubber band. But anyways, now I have this kind of fun thing. So I'm going to mimic what's happening on this side with this one that I just made, and I'm going to have it kind of come out a little bit. I'm still going to cut the curly willow. Something that's fun about curly willow is that sometimes if you let it sit in water, even after the arrangement has gone on to its compost resting home, the curly willow, if it's left in water, will start to root and it will also start to green up, which is kind of fun. But again, so I did that same thing on this side where I took a little bit of that and gave it a little bit of a punchy kind of a dimensional look. All right, so I'm gonna go in with maybe another piece of curly willow. This one. And I think I'm gonna just try and have something that is gonna come out down here to, again, take this line and then visually bring it down as well. So that's gonna come over here. Maybe. Doesn't quite want to do what I want it to do, but I think actually that's fine. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my arrangement. I'm especially going to look towards the bottom and see if there are any spots that are a little bit naked feeling. And I'm going to take some of my extra Ming fern. And again, I'm looking at this and I want there to be a little bit more, I don't know, like a little bit more volume. So I'm going to go in with some more of my Ming fern. And I'm going to just start to fill in some places. Like I just put some right here because I think I want it to have a little bit more dimension there or a little bit more volume. Again, I'm going to keep going around looking to see where else I can put some more of my Ming fern. Like down here, for example, I think I want to have something there to, you know, fill that out a little bit. Right there. And again, I think in this area right in here, I definitely want to have a little more volume. So it's not just this pittosporum that you see. All right, like that. I'm going to put something down here. And again, I'm making sure that it's actually going into the container and into the water because they like the water. All right, I think I'm going to put one more piece here and one more piece here, and then I'm going to call it a day. My rule of thumb typically is I know when I'm done when I can't shove anything else into the container, which is getting to the point where I am now. All right, so right there, and then, I don't know. Okay, one right there. All right, and then we will be done. All right. So now I feel like I'm done. I'm going to move this. Oh, that's too low. I'm gonna do some tricky camera work here. Oh, you can see it actually from back there too. So that's what the arrangement looks like. I'm gonna try. Oh, it's still too short. Okay, hold on one second. All right, let's try this. There we go. Kinda, right? I think that works. You can kind of see it, I think. And that still needs just a little bit taller. I think if it was just right there, it would be better. All right, hold on. Let me try this. All right. Perfect. Okay, so then here is our finished arrangement. I'm going to hold up this piece of fabric so you can kind of see it a little bit better. Oops. Turn it like this. Turn it like this to the other side. Okay. What questions do you guys have? Did that work with the viewing of it?
Absolutely. That is a gorgeous arrangement. And we actually do have quite a few questions in the chat here. Madeline would like to know about the curly willow. She said that she wasn't able to get any of that for her arrangement. Is there something that could work in a similar way?
Yes. So I think any kind of sort of like flexible branch or vine, I think that you can use, you can use pussy willow this time of the year. You can use forsythia branches as well. I think there's also like kiwi, I think it's called kiwi vine or walking stick would also work because that always has sort of its own kind of crazy thing going on. You can even do just bear grass. And then you can manipulate bear grass to also do little loopy things as well if you wanted.
And then there's another question about the curly willow with the 2-to-1 proportion. They're asking, does the 2-to-1 proportion include the curly willow?
No. So the curly willow on mine is a lot, it's a little bit hard to see, but it's a lot taller than the 1.5 times the height of the container.
And then finally, how long will the orchids last in this arrangement?
So these orchids should last you for at least like a week and a half to almost 2 weeks. The cymbidium will last the longest, and the dendrobiums should also last, I would say a good week and a half, almost 2 weeks. And the oncidiums, they'll start to brown after maybe like a week-ish, but it's funny because when they start to actually brown and sort of dry up a little bit, they still look really beautiful because it's still in the shape and it still adds that sort of light texture to it. So I would actually just keep leaving it as well.
Great. Are there any other questions from anybody who's still working on their arrangement or just has any questions in general? Feel free, you can unmute yourself and ask a question at this point if you'd like.
Hard to see this.
I have a question. regarding the triangle effect that you had mentioned at the very beginning?
Yes,
Okay, so could you go over that just one more time for me?
of course. So let's see if I can do this within the context of here. I don't know if I can or not. So the idea is that when you are creating an arrangement, in order to sort of make almost like a grid pattern, that if you use the rule of 3, so that you have 3 stems and you put one here, and then you would put one coming this way so that you create like a triangle. And what that does is it allows for you to have a pattern and sort of a guide to then see where else you want to put things. So let me see if I can figure this out to show you here. So you can kind of see in here, it's like 1, 2, and then 3 is here. So this is like a really wide and low triangle. On this side, it's a little bit easier to tell. You can see here's 1, 2, and then this one here is 3, and you've created a triangle that way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. There's another question in the chat about the size of the chicken wire. Is it the same size every time, or does it depend on the container or arrangement?
It depends on the container and the arrangement. I typically try and stick with almost the same size chicken wire for these public programs, just so that, you know, you have it at home, or, you know, if you're not picking up materials this time, you'll still have the same size-ish chicken wire for whatever project is you want to do next. This one, however, it was a little bit smaller than I had anticipated. So I ended up cutting a little bit off of the normal size piece of chicken wire that I typically use for our workshops, because again, it was a little bit more of a narrow container. But typically, you know, I always think that a little bit more is better than not having enough of it, because then again, you can really kind of like ball it up and it makes it easier to have the stem stay in place.
Maybe at this point we could have some folks start to turn on their cameras and show the awesome arrangements that they made.
Yeah, I'd love that.
And Susan also just asked in the chat where to get chicken wire from.
So chicken wire, the galvanized one in particular, you can get at different craft stores. If you live in the DC area, you can get it at Potomac Floral Wholesale, which is up in Silver Spring. You can get it online. You can get it at a hardware store, or any sort of, I don't know, like garden type plant places will typically have the galvanized chicken wire. A lot of times though, if you don't go to a craft store or to like a floral store or something like that, it's going to be a really large roll of it. So, you know, if you have friends who need chicken wire or something, you can maybe all go in. But I believe that, you know, like Michael's, or I think it was Michael's, that you can buy just like smaller sheets of it.
Wonderful. Okay, Nancy, I see that you have your camera on right now. Are you ready to share, or do you still need a moment? I'm sorry, I can't hear what you're saying. Do you want to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you're ready to share? Okay, let me add you to our spotlight. Okay, so now we can see Nancy's arrangement.
Okay, I was not able to get orchids, so I improvised with a variety of other floral blooms, but that was fun working with willow. I had pussy willow, so wrapping them was an interesting event.
Well, I like that you stuck with the color theme too. So it's still very, very similar and still very St. Patrick's Day-ish. So excellent. Looks wonderful.
Thanks.
All right, do we have anybody else who'd like to turn on their camera and show their arrangement?
I can show mine, but I think I had a lot of trouble with the initial greenery stuffing, not taking up a lot of the space and then having trouble showcasing the largest, orchids. So I'm not totally sure I'm there, but it was a good start. I can show, let me try to see if I can get this on the video. No, it's not.
Sorry, I'm trying to pin your video. I think I can only pin your video once your camera is on. So once that's on, everyone will be able to see. Okay, there we go.
Excellent.
Yeah,
I think it looks lovely.
like these orchids got a little bit lost, and then I had trouble with this stuff not quite doing maybe what it should, but get the idea.
Oh no, I think it looks
Fun.
wonderful. Yeah, and you could always sort of give your pittosporum, which is the bigger green one, you could always give it like a little trim if it feels like it's encroaching too much on the sort of showcasing the cymbidiums.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful.
Great. I see some other folks who are ready to share. Sarah and Beth, I'm going to spotlight your video.
Sorry, it's hard to unmute through the forest we've created.
Gorgeous.
Much. All of the materials are like amazing. And Sarah did a one-sided arrangement. I did. I went rogue because she knows where she's going to put it, and I did the two-sided. So
Excellent. No, they look wonderful.
beautiful, beautiful stuff.
Gorgeous.
All right, thank you. And how about Annette next? Let me add your spotlight. Okay, feel free to unmute and share.
Hi, it's Annette and Jared.
So show you.
Oh, hello.
Okay.
I saw you guys earlier today.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Well, gorgeous.
The whole thing.
Okay. Very nice.
Excellent.
Okay. Can I go back to that?
What I liked about it is very different from the last orchid one we did,
Yes,
which was very formal, more formal.
right.
Thank you. It was a lovely class.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. They look beautiful.
Okay, and then I see Susan also is ready to share.
Okay,
Wow.
yeah, I had a little trouble with the size of my orchid. I don't know if I cut it exactly in the right place, the cymbidium orchid, but you can let me know if I can turn this around. Here. Wow, having trouble.
Andrew.
Okay, let's see.
I'm
Having
gonna mute myself for just a second. Hold.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. There's something that crashed in the greenhouse, so just wanted to make sure everything was okay. Okay.
I'm having some trouble. I go to someone else right now and let me see if I can get it together.
Okay.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else who'd like to show their arrangement? Or any other questions, anything like that? Well, I don't see anybody else who has their camera turned on. Susan, would you want to try and show your arrangement? Maybe if you just turn your phone around or something like that?
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Looks gorgeous. Oh, you're still muted. I can't hear what you're saying.
I said I wasn't as, it was a good learning class. Thank you so much. I'm not used to having this area be more empty in the center and coming out that way. And these weren't quite as flexible as I thought they would be, to sort of be a little more drapey, but I think it looks okay like that.
No, I think it looks gorgeous. And again, if there's something that feels like it's a little bit empty in the center, you could always go in with some of your Ming fern to kind of fill in that space.
And would that mess up the triangle thing if I put it in
Nope.
there?
No, I think with the Ming fern, you can kind of, you know, green sort of willy-nilly with that as you'd like.
Oh, cool. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Wonderful. Well, if there is nobody else who'd like to show off their work, any last minute takers, any last minute questions? Well, if not, thank you so much, Amy, for a great class. I'm seeing lots of praise in the chat, lots of people also echoing that sentiment.
Well, thank you guys for all participating today.
I'm going to put a few links in the chat. If for anyone who is interested in checking out the current exhibition that we have going on at Hillwood, or would like to look into any other future programming, I know our next virtual floral design class is on, it's in April. I have the link. I can't see the date, but Amy, do you know the date off the top of your head?
I don't.
That's fine. That's fine. The link will be in the chat. Thank you all so much, and we hope that you'll come to the next event and hopefully see you at Hillwood sometime soon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have one more question.
Yep.
I get in one more. Where did you say to get some of these containers from for practice?
These containers I purchased from a place up in New York called Jamali, Jamali Gardens. It's in New York City, but they are great because you can order like one container, or you can order like 100 containers, and you don't have to have a wholesale account. So again, yeah, that's Jamali Gardens. They have an online website for you to order stuff.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you again, Amy.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.